pause note. Remember to pause it at our break time. Okay, everybody, I'm now recording this session. I want to welcome you all here as your IT chair. I'm going to give you a very quick orientation because I'm very glad to see there's a couple of names on here I think have not attended before, and I want to show you the controls. So let's go ahead and go into this very briefly. When you enter go to training, you enter into the web version. That's how it defaults usually. And this is probably what you are seeing, what's right in front of you. So up here is this little purple flower. If you click that, you can go to your camera controls, but more importantly, in that little flower, you can see a button, a line that says go to desktop version. If you click that and open go to starter, you could change over to the desktop version. If you wanted to use your camera, it's a little easier. So it's something to consider. I'll come back to the camera in just a moment. This button here is your microphone. You should be unmuted. Or actually, I'll let you control your mutes today, but please mute yourselves unless you're talking. Actually, no, please go ahead and unmute. I'm going to mute everybody. I think we're better with 13, with this many people. Well, how do you want me to do it, Ken? You want me to mute them, Ken, and have them raise their hands, or what do you want me to do?
Yeah, we'll do it. Let's unmute everybody and have them raise their hands so that we'll
Okay, everybody,
manually.
please unmute yourselves. I'm going to mute you in just a moment. I see that Doreen is muted, Grace Miller, and well, Joyce controls it just fine. She just does her own thing. She's a governor. So I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody, except for those of us who are working tonight. I'm just double checking. I have to unmute those. Okay, good. Okay, so now what you're going to do, I'll get back to what I was showing you before. This is your mute button. This green button here is raise your hand. So you raise your hand, we'll see a symbol, I will let you know and I'll unmute you. When that happens, by your mute microphone, you might get a message saying you're now unmuted. So you'll know that I've turned you on. This one down here is the people. That will show you who is in the meeting if you want to see a list of attendees. And this little box here is where you can click to do your comments. If you want to write a question or a comment, you can type it in and we will see it and then either type you back a response or we will read your question out loud depending on what it is you're asking. If you are choosing to share your camera on the web version, you also may see a red symbol up here where the circle is. That is asking you to give permission to use your camera for the browser. It may be on top, it may come up on the bottom right in your taskbar by the clock. But somewhere it may ask you for permission. If you've chosen to go to the desktop version, it looks like this. Very quickly, these two up here are your webcam and audio controls. This will shrink your menu. That's your mic. Right now you're all muted. If I unmute you, you'll see a message that says organizer has unmuted you. That's your camera button to turn on your camera. Everybody, if you have a camera and you're in this mode, you've got camera privileges. You can see that a number of folks are on. This one here, you're not going to use that if you're sharing your screen, but only organizers can do that. This is the hand raising button. If you click that, I'll see your hand. Once again, I will acknowledge you or, we'll unmute you and you can state your question. Ken also will be calling on you individually and we'll unmute you as he calls on you to answer a question. Kirby, I don't see a mic for you. I'm not sure what you're on, but I am not seeing a mic on your controls. You're welcome to use the chat message if you'd like to use the chat to talk to us. I know that you are heading home. So as you can see here, this is my attendees list. You can see who's in the meeting on my demonstration. Then this is our chat box. Type messages here, hit send, they go up here, and you will get a response either verbally or we'll type in an answer. You also see a box called materials. There are 3 items in there. You may click to download those. That includes your ebook and other items. They are also on our website under Club Resources, Officers Training Materials, and you can get them from there. So those are your materials and your directions. Are there any questions before I give this back to Ken about my directions or about the controls? Some of you have said you're brand new. If you have a question, this is a great time to hit your little yellow hand button. And I'm looking, Ken, I don't see any questions. So I'm going to happily stop talking and I'm going to send it over to you.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Hi, Sue Lynn. I see your camera's on, and Joyce has stepped away, which is fine. That way we don't have the district governor breathing down our throat. It's a real pleasure having you here on a Saturday morning. I know that we all have a lot of other things that we could be doing on a nice Saturday, particularly when it's nice and warm and sunny, but we're going to be trying to provide a lot of information to you. Every one of you is a secretary, and we're going to do some introductions in here just a second. But first of all, I just wanted to share with you that this presentation is being prepared and has been put together specifically for you by your Global Leadership Action Team. Myself, I'm the past district governor and uh, the current Global Leadership Team coordinator here in District 21 North. On the call with us today as well is Lion Lori Gens from the 21 South District. She is the current Global Leadership Training Chair. And also joining her is Sulin, I don't know if I can pronounce this correctly, but Trepanatis. Did I do close enough, Sulin?
Trepanitis.
Trepanatis. You're going to have to
Trepanitis.
work.
It's good. Whatever.
We'll work on it. We'll work on it. We've got a year to do it because she's joining me for next year as the 21 South GLT. So we're doing some training of ourselves as well as training of you. So it's going to be a lot of fun as we move forward. And I just noticed that Robert Yarber has just joined us. So I'm going to add Robert's name to my list. And this is how I will be calling on all of you to try and get engaged and participation because this is an interactive activity. Please, if you have a question as we're going along, feel free to raise your hand. I see the controls here, and so I can see when somebody's asking a question, and I'll get right back to you as quickly as I can in between things that we've been going over. So believe it or not, we are going to have fun. It says right here in fine print for a Saturday morning. Instead of being out in the 117-degree temperatures, at least we're going to have a little bit of time. Okay, we're going to try and give you a little bit of background. As I mentioned, I'm the past district governor. I've been in Lyons now for somewhere between 12 and 15 years. And my host club is the Prescott Evening Lions. So I'm up here in the north, obviously. So I'd like to do an introduction and ask you to not only tell us who you are, but how long you've been in Lions and your host club. And then if you don't mind adding to this introduction, tell me what's your favorite movie and why. That way we get a chance to get to know one another a little bit better. And it gives you all an opportunity to check your microphones, make sure they're all working correctly. So I'm just going to go down the list in the order that it's presented up here, and I'm going to ask David Steinmetz, since you just joined us, if you would, please tell us who you are and how long you've been a Lion, what's your host club, and what's your favorite movie?
Yes, good morning, everybody. Lion David Steinmetz with the Chandler Lions Club in the South. And I've been with the club for about a year and a half now. And really excited, great group of people and doing great things in Chandler.
Very good.
My
And your
fa
favorite movie?
yeah, my favorite movie. Might sound funny, but Iron Giant, just because of the friendship and the ability to overcome and understanding who you are. So that's the message I got out of it watching it with my kids. So I'll say that's my favorite movie.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and mute you again. Leave your microphones unmuted.
I
Doreen,
got the
you're up.
controls, Ken.
Okay. Doreen, you're up next, and we're going to call on Grace Miller after that. So, Doreen Prine, please introduce yourself.
Hi, can everybody hear me okay? Just
Yes,
want to
you're
make
doing
sure
fine.
this, Thank you. Just wanted to make sure it works. Hi, I'm Doreen Prine. I'm with the Pace and Lions Club. So we're 21 North. I have been a Lion for over 10 years, I know for sure. My favorite movie right now, because I changed a lot, because usually I love animation movies, so I go along with his other movie too. But right now it's Silverado. It's a Western.
Silverado Western. Okay. Uh, the Old West, that's where we live here in Arizona, without a doubt. Okay, thank you very much, Doreen, for joining us. Grace Miller, your turn, and then we're going to ask Jan Sternberg to join us. So, Grace, you're up first.
Good morning. This is, can you hear me?
Yes?
Okay, this is Grace Miller. I'm with the Phoenix Film Lions Club, and I've been a member since 2016. And this is actually my second year as a secretary. And my favorite movie of all time is Shawshank Redemption. It's just like, a justice at the end, and like if you do something, if you get convicted of something wrong, if you don't do any, if you were really honestly didn't do anything, there's like justice at the end. And I'm right here actually doing eyeglasses sorting, so I just stepped out. So hello from everybody. Thank you.
Glad to have you with us, Grace. And I always felt very claustrophobic when I watched that movie because at the end you're down in a sewer and a really tight, confining space. So I always was bothered by it. But it's a great heroic type of movie. Jan Sternberg, you're up next.
Hi, everybody. As Ken said, it's Jan Sternberg. I feel I've been a Lion since I was 5 years old with my dad. And then, of course, with my husband all these years. But I've actually only been a member since 2014 when then President Joe Preston brought me into Lions. My host club is Mesa Thunderbird Lions Club in Mesa, Arizona. And my favorite movie, and don't laugh, what is my favorite movie? Pretty Woman. Because I like rom-coms, I like happy endings, I like fun and humor.
And Julie Roberts is just absolutely gorgeous in that movie. Absolutely. Fantastic. Glad to have you with us, Jan. Of course, you've been a club secretary for years and years and years. I should be having you as part of this training team, sharing it with everybody because you've got a lot of experience at it. All right. Next up is a woman that I'm probably more familiar with than I want to at least announce, but my wife Karen is joining the session because she's the new club secretary for our club. So Karen, please introduce yourself and give us your favorite movie.
Okay, it's Karen Leia from Prescott Evening Lions, and I've been a member 12 years. And I've gone through all the chairs up through president, and I guess I'm starting over because I'm secretary again. And my favorite movie, because I love the holidays, would be White Christmas.
Why am I not surprised at that? She loves all of the presents under the tree as well. Oh my goodness. Okay. Thank you, my dear. I will be calling on you later on. Luis Moresco, you're on. Tell us who you are, where you're from, your host club, and your favorite movie.
Okay, I'm Luis Moresco, Peoria Pioneer Lions. I've been with Lions since the beginning of 2016. My favorite movie is Saturday Night Fever because I used to live in the neighborhood and I even saw some of the filming of it when the movie was put together.
Excellent. Saturday Night Fever. I'm trying to remember. Was that the that was a dance one, wasn't it?
Yes, it was the beginning of disco
Ah,
around 1977. Came out in 1978. Got to watch some of the filming of a couple of the scenes, which was in my neighborhood. And the club, 2001 Odyssey, that they called it, used to be called Club 802. And that was because its address was 802 64th Street, which was maybe about 6 or 7 blocks from where I used to live.
Excellent. Well, we're glad to have you with us today, and we'll get back to you with a few more things. Robert Yarber, please introduce yourself.
Bob, you're self-muted. You need to unmute yourself. Bob, you are self-muted.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah,
Are we
there you
there
go.
now?
You're
Yes.
good.
Okay, I'm Bob Yarber. I'm secretary in Yuma Quartermasters Club here at Yuma. This is my second year. I've been a member of probably maybe a little bit over 3.5 years. Um, since I'm older, my favorite movie and studied, and I also have studied and read it, is The Longest Day, The Invasion of Europe. That's my favorite. I still watch. I've watched it for the last 30 years or 40 years. I watched it many times. Pieces, beginning to end, so on, back and forth.
Yep. Good movies have a tendency to be great to watch no matter what time of the day, and they inspire us and they challenge us to think good thoughts. So they're always a fresh and enjoyable. Thank you very much for that, Robert. Let's go with Suzanne Campbell.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Campbell. I'm the incoming secretary of the Sun Lakes Lions Club. I've been a Lion for 1.5 years. I feel like I have so much to learn. All these initials, I still don't know what they mean.
Alphabet soup is what we call it.
Yes, exactly. My favorite movie, well, somebody else said it changes all the time. And with all of the binge watching that has gone on during COVID, it has changed a lot. But there's a documentary movie out right now, and I think it might only be on television, called My Octopus Teacher. And that's the one that I'm touting at the moment. Beautiful documentary film, My Octopus Teacher.
I have heard good things about it. I haven't seen it. I'm going to have to try and watch it. If you
Beautiful.
like it that much, then it's got to be a good movie. So thank you very much
Absolutely.
for sharing.
Yeah.
I just want to double check. Ricardo, you're not on with us. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. I don't see it. Sue Lynn, did I ever get a chance to fully introduce you and have you say a few words?
Um, yes, a few words really suits me well. But I have been a Lion for 21 years now, like a fully adult person, 21 years. My home club is the Tucson Downtown Lions, and I've served a number of roles over the years. And as Lion Ken has said, that this coming year, I'll be serving the district as the leadership chairperson on the Global Action Team. So it's a great position and it's very exciting. And like several of you, my favorite movie always changes. And when people ask me, I always say a different movie. But I like the Avatar movie. I think there's so much to be learned from that. It's one of those blended kind of movies between real people and animation. And there's just a lot of out of the box thinking on that movie, as well as out of the box feeling. So.
Very good. Thank you, Sue Lynn. And for those of you who are interested, my favorite movie also changes. I can tell you that our daughter Jennifer is definitely Princess Leia, so you might think Star Wars might be the favorite movie, but probably one of my favorite movies, and like so many else, it has a tendency to change. But One of the movies that I've been enjoying watching recently is Apollo 13, because of the chance of dealing with a lot of adverse conditions and then still surviving it and making a go of it. I do have another just kind of a general question that we were going to ask. So I'm not going to ask it this one. I'm going to go to my third question. I was going to ask everybody if you've been a secretary before, what do you want to learn today to help you do better next year? And this is the question that I want to ask is I want to ask each of you, if you've been a club secretary before, what do you want to learn now that to help you do it better? And if you've not been a club secretary, yeah, there's some truth to that statement about forget about having free time, because secretary is a challenging job, but it's a good one. What's your burning? I gotta know the answer. Gotta know the answer to the question. So what is your question? I'm going to write it down, because part of what I want to be able to do this morning is make sure that if you haven't done this before, secretary, that we make sure that we've answered whatever your burning question might be. And if you have been a secretary, what do you want to learn now that you think you don't know enough about? So let's take it from the bottom up. We went down my list before, so let's start with Suzanne. Suzanne, let's have you speak up and tell us which it is.
So,
Suzanne, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
yeah, um, going back to the initials and so forth, I don't know, I'm not sure where the secretary's job stops, actually, because the current secretary seems to do a whole lot more than what I would have thought a secretary does.
Mhm.
Ruth, yeah, right.
Okay.
There's
Well,
one of my issues.
okay. Well,
Um,
we have a handout that we'll be able to help you with on all of the acronyms, that alphabet soup thing. So
Good.
we'll be sure and get that to you. Also, when it comes to what are the roles and responsibilities of the secretary, well, you've found the right place. We're going to give you
Good.
that answer. And that hopefully in the next hour, hour and a half, you will be so overwhelmed that you'll say, gosh, I wish I'd known this stuff before.
So,
So
before I leave, so the club's website you mentioned earlier, does that have all of this information on it?
the club website?
You made some comment earlier about a lot of information being on a main website.
Yes, we have a Lions Arizona website that has the information. Also on this call, if you look at your task member thing, it talks about materials, and there's 3 materials in it. One is labeled 2021 Club Secretary Training Slides, and so that's the PowerPoint available to you. The LLC is the Lions Learning Center Responsibilities of a Secretary. That's another handout for you. And the most important one, which we will be covering, and that's the Secretary ebook. Those are handouts that you can download while we're on this call. So feel free to download those, add them to your computer, and we'll be going over a lot more of that. So don't worry about it. And the material is also available on the LionsArizona.org website under Club Resources. So we'll be reminding you about all of that. So just make a note off to the side there, and we'll get back to you. And remind me if I don't mention it again, but I will be mentioning it multiple times. Don't worry about it. Thank you, Suzanne. Robert Yarber, let's go to you. And what is your burning question, or what do you want to learn more of this year?
I don't have a burning question. I have a question
Okay, go for
regarding
it.
membership.
What about membership?
I'm coming to it. One of our members became ill. He was actually a new member from another location and moved to a Yuma, but he became ill, and he kind of dropped out in the middle of the pandemic.
Okay.
And but He didn't pay. We carried him. We carried him for the remainder of the year. Okay, now the new calendar, the new fiscal year, which starts next month.
Right.
We need to drop him before we're not forced to carry him another year. All right.
Understood.
So what do I do?
Okay. That's going to be a nice technical question, and you're going to want to drop him from the rolls if you're not going to be carrying him over into the next session.
Right.
And
Okay.
we will be covering some of the mechanics, but if I may, I'm going to note your question and we'll see to it that we get that answered for you on the specifics of how you drop a member. Because at the same time, we're going to want to make sure that you know how to add a new member as we move forward.
Okay.
So we'll get to that. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Luis, let's ask you the same question.
That's Lewis.
Lewis.
Well, I don't have a question. I've been lucky the past few years. My wife has been the club secretary, and I've gotten to watch and see some of the things that she does. And I also try to take notes at meetings to supplement what she takes notes on and learn the procedures at that. So really, it's just a procedural thing for me to learn, say, some of the more technical things and combine them with some of the basics and keep everything together. I always try to be a very organized person. Sometimes that's not always possible, but for the most part, I usually try to have everything in order and being prepared. So I'm taking this as a new challenge.
Okay. Well, if you do come up with a burning question, please feel free to raise your hand so we'll cover it.
Okay.
Karen Leah, let's go to you and you tell us what is your burning question.
It's to become more familiar with the technical aspects of the job. Since I haven't done it for quite a while, I need to know more about the online processes.
Okay, very good. That seems to be an interesting dynamic with everyone, and we've got a few tools that will help you with that. So we'll be sure and cover that. Jan Sternberg, it's your turn to get the question opportunity.
I really don't have any questions. I'm just on here to see if there's anything new that I need to know. I do have a question, but it's kind of like an indirect thing dealing with Facebook. But as far as the secretary, I don't have a
So it's
question.
more of a communications question?
How to do this, that, and the other thing on Facebook.
Okay. Well, we're going to have time this morning, kind of an open forum area in this presentation. So hopefully, I'm going to make a notation, Jan, to go back to you with that question about Facebook and communications and make sure that we've at least addressed it. Because I'm sure that if you've got that concern, there are other secretaries here that have got that same concern. So we'll get back to you, all right?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Jan. Grace Miller, your turn. What's your burning question? Grace, you're self-muted. Grace, are you
Grace?
still there?
You need to unmute yourself, please, Grace. And by the way, Ken Kirby is here. I've told him to write his answers and we'll read them.
Okay, very good. Grace, are you still there?
Apparently not. She stepped away. Oh, there she is. She's on.
Grace, I can't hear you. Okay, let's move on and we'll come back to Grace. Doreen, if you're still there, let's ask you to the same question.
Okay, first of all, I have been club secretary before for quite some time. I stepped away and got to be treasurer for a while, and I'm back at being secretary and treasurer now. My burning question is, we have a Lioness Club that was here, and I need to put them in as new members. And I need to know how to be able to I mean, I can add new members, I can remove members. I'm not sure exactly if there's a different procedure with the Lioness coming in, because there's some of the fees that are partially waived, and I don't know exactly how to be able to put it all in there. So that's my burning question. How do I put the Lioness members in as Lion members now?
Okay. We'll see if we can try and answer that. Joyce, you've got a hand up. Can you jump in and provide some insight into that?
Doreen, I will reach out to you later this afternoon and help you and guide you doing that. We can do it together, so this way you learn how to do it. The Lionesses in Payson have decided to join your club and not open their own club. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, Doreen's muted. Go ahead, Doreen.
Yes, actually, that is true. They have decided to be able to join, but I will also be in the treasurer's training this afternoon. And then I do have our last Lioness Club meeting is going to be today at 5. So kind of a tight schedule today,
Yeah.
but yes, I really need to get with you, Joyce, on that. Thank you very much for wanting to do that with me. Thank you.
Yeah, just give me a call when you get a moment.
I will. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent. See, this whole thing is about making sure that it all works for everybody. So we'll try to make sure that we've given you all of the information, as well as additional resources as we move forward. One more person that I've got on here, David Steinmetz. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So this is my first time as being secretary for the club and first really official leadership role in Lions. So my burning question is, what the heck am I supposed to do? Just like everybody else. And can I ask, as we go through today's training, as a person who is blind, that we ensure you're communicating what we're seeing on the slides, and if there's some accessibility things that you may know of, shortcuts, etc. I'd love to hear those, or maybe you get partnered with somebody that has that technical expertise in navigating, and whether it's the club or not the club, the Arizona Lions website and portals and things like that.
Understood. And we've had the experience of working with a past council chair as well as a past district governor who is also blind, and that's Tom Simmons. And so we do understand and recognize that there are challenges. If you're unable to see what's going on, you at least have the acuity to be able to listen and use that sense to even be more acute towards what's going on. So you're going to be a terrific secretary. It's just going to be a little bit more challenging because there's other things that you have to be thinking about. So we'll see if we can try and assist you as we move forward. I also noticed that Richard Serrano's joined us. Is that correct, Brian?
He may have just come on. David, also get with me. I can help you out with the Lions Arizona site, and come to my tech talks, which I'll be announcing soon. I've got the schedule worked out, and you can come to those, and I'll work with you there as well. I'm a former SPED teacher, and I have experience with assistive technology.
Excellent. Brian, I'm using someone else's computer today. It's a Mac. Do you know the keyboard or hotkeys to raise my hand? I know in Windows it's just Alt-Y.
I think it's Alt-Y. I'm not sure about Mac. I don't do Macs. I'll see what I can find for you.
Thank you.
My condolences on being on a Mac.
Yeah, I
Hey,
know.
wait a minute. I like a Mac. All right. Well, David, we'll definitely keep you in mind. And Brian, can you please chat with him as well as when you get that answer? Let's make sure that we announce it to everybody, because that might be a good shortcut to
We'll
know.
talk offline, because I'm not sure well the chat box will work, but I'll get with him.
Okay, very good. Richard Serrano, are you there and on with us? You're self-muted, at least according to my note here.
Yeah, he is. He's self-muted. Richard, you need to unmute yourself, please. Richard, you need to hit your mic and unmute yourself. I don't think he's doing so right now.
Okay, well, we'll keep going. Richard, if you can hear us, when you get yourself unmuted, we'll go ahead and raise your hand so that we can address you and introduce you to the rest of the group. Okay,
Or
let's
feel
go
free
ahead
to
and get
write
this
your
started.
questions in the chat box, and I can read them if you want to write them in the chat box. That works as well.
Yes. Thank you, Brian. Okay, Club Secretary Workshop. That's what we're trying to do, is give you the tools to be able to do your job as a club secretary. What we will be exploring today is a kind of a long laundry list. The Lions Clubs International has about a 4-hour training session that they can put on that can make everybody be bored out of their mind. We've tried to condense it to where the hard to do things and the challenging things are right up in front, and we try and address how to do the job of secretary. The one thing that we're not going to spend a lot of time is the hands-on of putting things onto the MyLCI and MyLion. We're going to be doing that as a separate workshop that deals specifically with the computer, and that's going to be on July 31. It is the date that we had down there on the calendar, July 31 at 1 o'clock. We have set that aside as specifically doing computer activities. Right now, what we're going to focus on at this portion of the training deals with, here is the role of the club secretary and how you prepare for a successful term as club secretary. We're going to help you understand easy ways of keeping things organized. What are some of the expectations that you're going to be doing as a secretary? Minutes taking, you're not going to be a court clerk. You don't have to worry about trying to be the stenographer trying to keep track of every single word. All it is putting together minutes. What are the reports and correspondence that you're going to need to be handling? Pardon me. How do you deal with some of the communicating issues? Your role at the district governor's advisory committee level, which that's called the zone chair meetings, your involvement there. And again, going back to an overall summary of what is your job as a club secretary and what are the expectations that your club has of you and what should be your own expectations of yourself as a club secretary. That's a lot of information, a lot of material that we're going to try and cover, and I'm going to try and keep it to less than 2 hours. We've already spent a little bit of time because we've got a lot of people on here with us, but we'll make sure that it goes fast. Feel free to ask questions as we move forward. So let's talk about the 6 specific roles that basically summarize the secretary's job. First of all, your number 1 role would be organize club board meetings, both the club and the board meetings. Attending the meetings. That sounds basic, but it's kind of surprising. Sometimes we forget that our meetings are to be doing planning and preparing for going out and doing service. We are an organization that is a service organization. So part of your role is to help all of the membership keep track of what they're doing and be able to report that information. A key element of what you're doing is preparing minutes and preparing agenda. Yes, you work with the club president in preparing both of those so that it comes together and everybody knows about it, which means you're also communicating with all of your club members and you're keeping track of any of the correspondence that goes into it. You are, just as the word sounds, the secretary. You're the one that's responsible for keeping track of all of the club reporting. That's reporting to LCI. It's also reporting wherever it needs, the information needs to go. So that's where secretary is truly the chief records keeping officer of the club. The club president is the executive officer, and you are the one that is supporting that individual. So let's get down to the basics of what you're going to need to do as we move forward in the new year. To prepare to lead, and you are a club leader, you need to prepare to succeed at doing it. That means get your act together. You have resources, and they are tremendous. If you've been an experienced Lion, it's been around for a while, some of these resources you're going to know already. But if you're brand new, you may not even know that they're available to you, and they're right there online. Most important would be that Club Secretary ebook. That ebook is one of the materials that you can download. When you download that PDF and you start looking through it, you're going to find a tremendous number of answers to the questions that you're seeking. And they are all connected with hyperlinks, which means that all you have to do is open up the PDF, take a look at a certain section, and if you don't understand what it's saying, you click on the link and it'll take you right to the LCI website, and there is going to be more information to work with. So you're going to have literally a Bible to work with that gives you the answers to most of the things that you're going to be running into. Now, in the case of our blind secretary, it's going to be challenging because I don't know how well that ebook works in terms of doing a voice recording or a voice announcement. So we're going to have to check into that, David. I honestly don't know how good their connection is in terms of assisting you as a club secretary. But believe it or not, on our call right now, we've got about 15 people who are going to be more than happy to help you any way that we possibly can. Both experienced secretaries that are on this call, as well as people that are able to have been doing it before and will be able to help you. So feel free to ask the questions as we move forward. Understanding that you've got that resource tool and that you can just click on a link and have that give you more of the answers is just one thing. As a secretary, you're going to be considered the repository of all of the factual information about Lions and Lions Clubs International, which means that you're going to probably want to understand a little bit more about club organization. You're going to be that resource for the club officers. You're going to be the resource for all of the members. When you think about all of the members that are in your club, how many of them even know what all of the roles are? Everyone in a club should have some kind of a responsibility to make the club successful. The club secretary, it doesn't show it in this particular chart that's up on the screen right now, but that secretarial position is right smack dab at the core of the leadership team. Leadership team, which is comprised of the president, the secretary, the treasurer. The treasurer is the chief financial officer, the president is the chief executive officer, and the secretary is the chief administrative officer, keeping track of all of the materials. Now, you've got other people to assist in a lot of other areas, but everyone has a role, everyone has a job to do. And this is a typical kind of a standard club organization chart, just so that you know there's more opportunities for leadership growth and leadership practice as a club member, because there are all of these roles and opportunities for all of the leaders, all of the members within the club, so that everyone working together forms a high performance team. You just happen to be at the center of it because you're the one keeping track of the records for it. Now, the organizational structure, this is just the structure of here are the people, but there are rules that we try to follow, and that's why we have a constitution and bylaws. Your club may have other roles and responsibilities. It may have the lion tamer and tail twister, for example, not at the board level, but just at the club level, which is fine. We're not trying to create fiefdoms. The idea is that there are documents that the club has that you as secretary are responsible to have, to know, and to know how to get information, so that if somebody asks you, hey, the president has just asked me to be the lion tamer, what do I do? They're going to go to you as the club secretary, because you are going to be thought of as, here is the place where all of the answers are found. And guess what? You have that ebook ready to be able to be that resource for you. The ebook is, again, it's something that's been around for a couple of years now, but it provides you a tremendous access to the entire Lions Learning Center, where you've got direct access just by pulling up the ebook and making a one click to get to the Lions Learning Center, to where it'll walk you through maximizing your Lions accounts on My LCI, My Lion, the LCI shop, where you'll be buying supplies, because you're going to be the one that's placing the orders. You're probably going to be the one that's getting the attendance pins. You're probably going to be the one that's getting the chevrons for membership. You're going to be the one that's making sure that your club members have their year pins, how many years they've been in the club. Later on, we're going to be talking about the Club Excellence Award. You're going to be the one that's probably filling out the paperwork to get your club that particular prestigious award. So there's a lot of things that you're going to want to know how to access. So you're going to be needing to get online and prepared to succeed. That's the reason this part of the section is kind of dealing with, how do you prepare to lead and how do you prepare to succeed, is knowing what resources you have available to you. One of the things that most people don't realize is that from April forward, as a incoming club secretary for the new year, when your club gets the officers uh, elected, chosen, selected, however you're doing it based upon your club, the club secretary is the one who posts that to Lions Clubs International. Let's say that it was last year's secretary and you're replacing the person as secretary. I know we've got a couple of 2-year secretaries in here that you're doing it for a second time, but let's assume for just a second that last year's secretary has already announced and published at MyLCI that here is the new officers. Then beginning in April, you can go online and start practicing on the training site for your club. You have a little designation on there to be able to go online and start without impacting your club's records. You'll be able to go online, see how you click through everything. And that's one of the things that we'll be going into more detail on at July 31, where we're going to be doing hands-on with the computer. But as an incoming secretary, your term can actually start as early as April to get trained, to get understanding how to do things. And that we will be covering. Some useful insights, we'll be looking at some of the things that what you need to be doing and what you need to get accomplished for the year. And that's going to be the task reports. That's one more handout that we will be sending to you. And that's a year of what dates you're going to need to have and know about that we're sending you. These are going to be dates that are, when should you make sure that the treasurer has filed the 990 form? When do you need to turn in your election report? When should you be having your elections? A lot of the details that the secretary it just assumes that it's getting passed from one secretary to the next. It doesn't always happen. So we're going to be providing you some resources to be able to make sure that you've got those dates available to you. Bear in mind, everybody that's on this call right now is going to have these resources available to you right now. As you move forward, please feel free to get in touch with your zone chair, with any of your district officers, to ask any other questions as we move forward. Don't feel like you're stuck out there and you have no one to call. Everyone here is going to be knowing the same thing. So we're going to know, all of us here, who are the other secretaries that went through the training? What else did we need to make sure that we remember? Because we're not going to remember everything. This is going to be a fire hose, and everybody's going to be drinking water from the fire hose over the next 30 minutes, 90 minutes or so. As a secretary, you have an ebook. Bear in mind that you're not the only one with this same kind of a tool. When the club officers ask you about, well, what other information should we know? Please know that all of these officers also have their own ebook, the same resource that you have. It's slightly different because the ebook that you have as club secretary is for club secretaries. This ebook is for the club presidents. There's an ebook for the treasurer. There's an ebook for the membership chair. There's an ebook for the service chair, all of them to be able to answer their burning questions. So not only do you have resources, but when they ask you, all of the other club officers also have their answers. So you don't have to be the one that knows everything. In fact, you're going to be getting a flash drive. Each club will be getting a flash drive that's going to have a lot of these resources on it, and it'll be before, probably by the kickoff. Is that correct, Joyce? We'll have all of these available by the kickoff, if not earlier. I'm sorry, she's muted. Let me unmute her. Say that again, Joyce.
Yes, hopefully we will be able to take care of it before then.
Yeah. So that everyone will have all of these digital resources available to you. So every club officer also has an ebook. So as secretary, as the resource person within the club, you have them and you'll be able to get them to the people who need them. You'll know how to find them and as well as distribute them. You serve as the link. This is the most critical thing for you to bear in mind as secretary. You are the critical link within the club because you serve between the club leadership and the club members. The club members are not necessarily going to go to each and every single officer. They're going to go to the secretary first for the answers, which is part of the reason why we want you to understand what is the standard organization of a club, as well as what's in your club constitution and bylaws, which is what we covered just a few seconds ago. Knowing that information is going to be of help. Read through it once, twice, 3 times, just so that you're not surprised by some of the elements that are in it. The club constitution and understanding your club organization. A lot of clubs kind of just wing it. But believe it or not, there is a standard. You're more than welcome to use that tool and start checking off. In the resources that we've provided you today, there is that chart. In fact, I'm going to go back to it just for a second here. That chart is part of the resource material that you will have. And for David, the chart is the standard club organization. You may not have the exact one, but you can use this as a guide to help put together your own so that the rest of your club also understands your club's organization. You're going to be the one that they're going to turn to answer questions. Well, what do I do as the immediate past president and LCIF coordinator? What do I do as part of the IT committee? You know, you will have those questions. It'll be part of your constitution and bylaws and part of your organization. Okay, let's go back to the next element. You're the link. So let's get down to the brass tacks. Expectations. I've labeled it this way because people are going to expect of you certain things. And you're going to be wanting to expect of yourself that you can do these things, if at all possible. The obvious primary expectation is it's going to be expected that you're going to be at the meetings. Does that mean that you have to be at every single meeting? Well, no, not necessarily. There may be times when you need to have an assistant. And so there is a brand new position in Lions Clubs International. It's not an official voting, it's not an officer, but it's the club administrator. And I'm going to ask Lori Gens to try and join us here for a second. Lori, can you go ahead and put your camera on, please? And she's got a sister, hopefully that she's not on a phone call with the nurse. But Lori, would you mind explaining what is the role and the distinction of a club administrator?
Okay, the club administrator is another position that LCI has made available to our clubs. It is not an elected position. The clubs have the option of whether they want to assign someone to this position or not, but whoever is assigned to this position has the same exact permissions in my LCI that the club secretary and the club president have. So that way, if the club secretary is not able to access my LCI for a particular report that has a deadline to be filed, or to update membership records or club information, they can talk to the club administrator as long as it's officially been assigned to your club by either your club president or your club secretary. Then that administrator can go ahead and log in, and they can file the reports or make any changes in my LCI that the secretary isn't able to at that time.
Excellent. I know that this is a new position that has been created. In many respects, it's more than just an assistant secretary or a co-secretary. It is a support position, and usually the club administrator, if I'm not, and Lori, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but it should be somebody that's really computer literate, somebody that's really familiar with how to get things onto the computer. So if you have an individual in your club who loves to play with the computer and hasn't anything else to do, have them be the club administrator, working hand in glove with the president and the club secretary to keeping track of all of the digital records, all of the digital maintenance that needs to go into it. This is an area that we're going to discuss a lot more when we get together on July 31. So if you haven't registered for the July 31, please feel free to do so. It's going to be 100% hands-on with the computer. So we're going to be doing a lot of breakouts and sessions so that you can go right online to my LCI and my Lion. Get a much stronger feel for that technology. Thank you, Lori. Was there anything else you wanted to add on the club administrator?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Expectation, attend your meetings, obviously, and keep track of the records that are going on at those meetings, whether they're monthly, weekly, board meetings, zone meetings. Attending a meeting, that's an expectation that you should have of yourself, because the club is going to be expecting you to be at those meetings. Another expectation is that you've got things to do before those meetings, during those meetings, and after those meetings. Now, some of these roles you may not even realize that you've got a kind of a responsibility to do as a secretary. Before the meeting, you want to let people know that, hey, we're going to have a meeting. And what's on that meeting? Well, that would be the agenda, which means you're getting out the agenda early. You're getting out the notice that you're going to be having this meeting, and you're making sure that everyone knows what you're going to be covering, which means that if a committee chair wants to be able to say something or is going to need additional material, as secretary, you want to make sure that that's part of the agenda so that it's clear and understood who's going to be speaking when and where. Now, you don't do that alone. You work with the club president on this, but the club president is going to be relying on you to be the funnel for all of this information. The club committee chairs are going to be talking to you as the club secretary, because in advance, you're going to be asking, hey, we're putting together the agenda for the meeting. What do you want to talk about? Nothing? Okay, let me make that notation. Oh, you've got certain things that we need to be planning because we've got a service project 2 weeks later, or we've got a major event 3 weeks later. You're going to want to make sure that you're on the agenda. The secretary is the one who helps assemble it and then disseminate that to the members. So the expectation is that it's coming from you. So be prepared for that. Plan in advance that, yep, I'm going to have to make sure that the president is organized. And that means that I'm going to need to be organized to do that. During the meeting, you're going to be the one that's going to be keeping track of who's there. You're going to be recording minutes. You're going to be gathering information and documenting who are the guests that you might have there, potential future members. If your club brings in members for a guest meeting for whatever reason, then you're going to want to write that down. You're going to want to also be able to follow up with that potential new member and provide them whatever materials might be necessary for them to register as a Lion, to become a member. You're going to be the one that's putting together the board agenda so that you can ultimately take that application for new membership to the board for approval. So the secretary has a lot of other things behind the scenes besides let's just take minutes at the club meeting. After the meeting, you need to make sure that those documents are then recorded, filed, and kept permanent. Now, does that mean you have to keep the paper copy? No, not necessarily. You can keep a digital copy, but you're going to want to make sure that it's distributed to the board members and to the club members, that the minutes are there and available, because at the next meeting, you're going to need to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. If there's any follow-up based upon the discussion, a thank you letter for somebody that's come to your club as a guest speaker, you may be doing the follow-up of sending off a thank you letter to them. Yes, you might have given the guest speaker a pen or, a souvenir of their presentation, but at the same time, it's nice to be able to send that letter off to so-and-so, thanking them for being there and inviting them to come visit anytime. Who knows? You might have another potential member. These are all part of the expectations that people will have of you and you should have of yourself. So kind of keep these things in mind. Now, before we go any further, let me add one thing here. The challenge, and I want to finish this point, and then we're going to be able to take a break. Preparing agendas and recording minutes. A lot of secretaries think that they've got to become a court stenographer. No, you're not trying to keep track of every word that is said. That's why I've highlighted down here, minutes record what the club does, not what's said. And we don't have club meetings. Meetings are to be planning the next event, to get more information that we might need so that we can be doing what we do, which is we serve. We serve the community. So the idea is that you are preparing agendas and recording minutes as part of your responsibility. That agenda is done in cooperation with the president, and it's done in advance. So it's not a last minute surprise as to what are we going to talk about at this meeting. If you've got a guest speaker, hopefully you get it out in advance so that people will then say, yeah, I definitely want to listen to this discussion. If it's going to be a planning meeting for the event that's coming up, yes, I want to be a part of that meeting because I want to make sure that I understand what my role or my responsibility is for that service project. If it's a fundraiser, making sure that everybody's on the same page with it. That's why getting the agenda out in advance, it doesn't do any good if your meeting's at 6 o'clock and you send the agenda out at 5:30. It doesn't do anybody any good. And yet that seems to be a prevalent aspect of it. The meetings can be very simple as here is who's presiding. In fact, guess what? In the supplies that we're providing to you, here is the sample format for minutes. It's that simple. It could be one page because you're not trying to keep track of all the things that were said. You're trying to keep track of what you're doing. What were the decisions made? Where are we going? What are we doing with it? Very simple. You know, it's indicating who, when did you start, when did you end, who was there, what was the business covered, and it only needs to be one sentence, two sentences. We have a tendency to get hung up on who motioned and who seconded and how many votes were going this way and that way and what was all of the discussion. just boil it down to a finished, we discussed such and such, and the plan is to table the motion, or we're going to do this event on such and such. Here is the person in charge. So keep it simple. Okay, before we go on to any further expectations, and I've got a couple more for you. I haven't seen any questions going up, so I'm assuming that this is making sense. Again, these are not necessarily job specifics because it's very nebulous right now. These are just what people are going to be expecting of you as a secretary, and what are you going to need to be doing at your meetings and for the club. So before we go on to the next one, I see that Jan has raised her hand. Jan, go ahead.
I have two questions, both dealing with the same thing. You talked about keeping computer copies. I also keep paper copies. I'm wanting to know what you think or what the standard is for how long you should keep a paper copy and how long you should keep a computer copy of your minutes for the year.
I don't know that to answer part of that, and I'm going to ask both Lori and Sue Lynn to jump in if they can. But I don't believe that there is a specific timeline, but I know that for tax records purposes, you're supposed to keep any financial records paper for 7 years. After 7 years, you can throw it all away. Digital copies, because they don't take up space, they can be literally a flash drive. At the end of a year, just throw the flash drive into a drawer, put it into the box of stuff that goes to the next secretary, and let them hang on to it. The digital record can be on a hard drive and archived. Flash drive certainly works. So there's a lot of opportunities there, and they can be then semi-permanent. Uh, Myself, I like to think that I have it on a flash drive so that it doesn't get any electromagnetic pulse with if there is a bomb that's dropped. Not that I'm saying that there's going to be a bomb dropped, but who knows? And I also keep it on the hard drive of my computer. We're all into computers, so I have a folder on my computer that has all of my Lion stuff, and I have an offline backup, which is the flash drive. So that's what I would probably recommend. Does it have to be 7 years specifically? I don't know that there is a rule. Sue Lynn, Lori, either of you have any specific on it? Go ahead, Sue Lynn.
So the Downtown Lions is coming up on a big anniversary, 100 years. And we've been going through club records. There are paper copies of minutes from the beginning of time.
Whoa.
And most of them are in the same format that we're talking about today. Keep track of the events. What's the club doing? What's the club done? Not about who said what. It's been very important for the club history to do that. But in today's world, digital seems to be the way to go. These paper documents have just consumed so much time management, so much space over the decades. Even though it's a great historical piece for a club, it is consuming of time and space. So digital is the way our club has gone, and it's exactly like Lion Ken has said. People keep it on a flash drive, and also the year's worth are kept on a hard drive so that it's easy to recall, it's separate from the other ones, and easy to distribute or to use as a referral or reference. So,
Thank you, Sue Lynn.
Ken, I had a question here from Dave Stemmons that goes along with this. He wanted to know if the minutes should be reported to LCI. I responded to him from his information. Know they're your club's record of business and allow you to keep track and go back and review actions taken by your club. They are also invaluable in creating the agenda for the next meeting. However, they should be, as Sue said, saved and perhaps kept in notebooks, or in our club's case, I put them on a thumb drive and I was secretary and gave them to the next person.
Mm.
Yes. When I started, we had a small 2-drawer file cabinet for all of the paperwork
Oh, yeah.
of Lions. And between being a district governor and 12 years, I now have 2 5-drawer file cabinets full of paper goods. I much prefer the hard drive. It doesn't take up as much space as Sulin was talking about. Were there any other questions on our horizon, Brian?
No, sir, there are no written questions and no hands are up.
Okay, in that case, we've already spent a good hour already in talking, and I don't want this to get everybody upset, but let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. It's 10:13 by the clock on the wall behind me. Let's meet back up here at exactly 10:20. So you can give yourself 7 minutes, grab yourself another cup of coffee, a glass of water. In the case of my wife, it'll be a glass of wine. Uh, and if you need to make a potty break, that's fine. We'll meet back up at 10:20, and that way we'll pick up on where we left off. I'll leave the clock running in the background. Back everyone. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to get a glass of water, a cup of coffee. Karen's got her Diet Coke instead of wine, darn it. I thought for sure she was going to go for that glass of wine this early in the day. Thankfully, I'm married to her, and she'll get back at me later. If you get a chance, chat me a message back that you're back online. That's how we're keeping track of who's still with us and who's not still with us. So just down there at the bottom, just chat back with the words "I'm back" or whatever. It'll tell me who's here and who's back with us. I see that Doreen is here. Who's next? Just send me back a chat. There's Jan. Welcome back. Thank you. Sulin is back with us. I can see certain people back just on the screen. David's back with us. Thank you very much, David. And Robert, yes, you're still here with us. Okay, great. I'll go ahead and keep the chat back to me so that I know that everybody is here and with us. Let's go on to the next element because I want to get down to some nitty-gritty things that we're going to want to try and cover. As we move a little bit further here in the discussions, there's going to be a lot more that's going to be talked about, and hopefully you'll have even more questions. Yes, this has been pretty basic. This has been more of an overview, but part of the reason I'm couching it under expectations is some of these things you may not be the one that wants to do it. You may not be the one that has to do it. There may be others in your club. You could have a assistant secretary. You could have a club administrator. You could have your between the lion tamer and tail twister, you could have these individuals that are supposed to be the greeters, keeping track of things such as the club roster of attendance, and they just give you back, here is the details. There's a lot of ways that you can share their job and share their responsibilities, but the expectation is that yes, these things still need to get done, which is why we're bringing it up now so that you can understand the full scope of what the club secretary is responsible for, because these are going to be things that people are going to be thinking about your role. They're going to be thinking that, yes, you as the club secretary, you're the place where all the records go. You're where all of the correspondence goes, which means that you open the letters, you read the letters, you file the letters. You're going to be the place where when someone comes up to you and says, gosh, what was that thing that we did 10 years ago? And it was a fundraiser that was really successful and we want to do it again. They're going to come to you, whether you've been in the club 18 months or you've been in the club for 12 years. They're going to come to you as the club secretary because you're where all of that club history is recorded and saved. So you don't necessarily have the answer there in the meeting place, but the expectation is that you're going to be the one that they're going to ask, and you're going to be the one that they're going to want to get an answer from. If you don't know the answer, if you don't even know what the question is, you've got to be that person that allows the club members to have a relationship with everyone else. That's part of that role of a club secretary, is that you're going to be right smack dab in the thick of things. You're at the deep end of the pool all of a sudden. So anticipate it. Plan for it. If it means that you need additional help in doing it, that's fine. That's why we have other members, to help one another. But it's going to be expected of you to keep minutes of all of the meetings, keep minutes of all of the activities. Again, minutes as in, what did we do? What did we accomplish? Not necessarily the nuts and bolts of, we crossed this T and dotted that I, but here is the history. It's going to be expected of you to make sure that your installation program for this year's new club officers that are going to be starting in 2021-22, that club installation program you keep for the historical record, because not very many people are going to remember. Now, who was the tail twister 20 years ago? They aren't going to remember it necessarily, but you're going to be that repository of records, that repository of history, that repository of information somewhere in your secretarial files. Think of it in the professional level, at the corporate level. The most important person in the corporation is the secretary. The secretary to the president, to be specific, because that person knows what the president knows who the president's going to be meeting and talking with, arranges things, coordinates things, makes sure that nothing got accidentally thrown away. That's going to be an expectation. One of the crazy things that you're going to probably want to remember to do, and this is one of those little simple tricks that I learned as a secretary, and I know that there's, in fact, I believe it was Lori that had shared it with me a long time ago, is that before she goes to the club meeting, she makes a printed copy of the roster. Why? Because the roster is constantly changing between people coming in and people going out. But more importantly, that way she's got a list of all of the people that are supposed to be at the meeting, and she can check off where it is. She doesn't have to, oh God, what was his name? Did he show up or didn't show up? There is the club roster. She can just make a little check mark on it. A very simple little help guide. When the correspondence is coming in, the secretary is who needs to have it channeled to, so it's going to one place. Now, that doesn't mean that the service chair or the membership chair isn't just sending out correspondence. The president may be sending out correspondence. The treasurer may be having correspondence with the bank. The bank statements come in. At some point in time, the treasurer needs to turn over those bank statements into the repository for the club history, so that it does create the history of the club. The secretary is the one responsible for keeping track of it all, making sure that it's happening. Somewhere along the line, the secretary is also responsible for the outgoing communications. That communications could mean that the secretary is responsible for the newsletter. Now, does that mean that you're the newsletter editor? No, that doesn't mean that another job duty. If you only have 6 members in your club, you might get stuck with that job. But the idea would be, let's make sure that somebody else has a job to do. Somebody else can be the club newsletter editor. You've got a website. Well, maybe somebody else handles the website and makes sure that the agenda gets posted onto the website, that the minutes get posted onto the website. That's not necessarily the secretary that has to do that, but if that's something that your club wants to do, it's part of your culture, it's part of your way of communicating, and you want it on the website, you can do that. If you've got a Facebook page and you want to go ahead and present, here's what we're doing, here's pictures that are going up onto the website, onto the Facebook page, and we're posting to all of our members, here is the stuff that we covered last night. Is that the secretary's specific job function? No, not necessarily. It may be in the club. That's one of the things you're going to get stuck doing. But if you can pass that off to somebody else, get the other club members engaged and working with you. That's building your communications team. Because in some respects, you are part of that overall communications of the executive committee. The executive committee being the vice presidents, the president, the treasurer, and the secretary. Your club may not realize it, but if you looked at that standard organizational chart, it had down there marketing communications chairperson. That's one of the possible leadership positions within the club. If you don't have a marketing communications chairperson, guess who becomes the de facto marketing communications chairperson? The secretary. If you don't have a treasurer, who becomes the de facto treasurer? The secretary. If you don't have a service chair, who becomes the de facto service chair? The secretary. You're in the middle of it. My wife's shaking her head. No way am I going to do that. You know, it's that you as the secretary become the focal point, the foci of the club success. And that's where your greatest strength and the greatest expectation is going to be for you to see to it that everybody's got a job, that everybody's doing things, and that the communication is both coming in as well as going out. If you don't have a marketing communications person and a committee for that, who's going to be the one that's going to be responsible for sending out the publicity, letting the people know that you are doing these things in your community? Who's going to send out the news release? Typically, it would be the secretary if it's not the marketing communications. So there's a lot more to the viewpoint, to the vision of what the secretary does than just show up at meetings and take minutes. That's not to say that you got to do it all, but the expectation is that people are going to look to you for guidance. They're going to look to you for direction. We've already covered the fact that an expectation is that you're going to know where the club charter is. Now, I'm going to be very curious. By just a show of hands, I want you to use the hand button, not to ask a question, but show of hands, click on there if you know where your club charter is. Click yes if you do. Don't click if you don't know. So we've got 3 people out of 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 3 people, now 2 out of 13 that know where the charter is. Ah, there's 4. Okay. So some people must have just found it in the last 30 seconds. That's okay. That's all right. It's all right for you to know. It's the idea that, guess what? As secretary, one of those responsibilities is that you're the keeper of the charter. It might be, as Sue Lynn was saying, your club's getting close to being 100 years old. Do you know where your charter is?
Right.
Yeah. If particularly for that 100th anniversary or 50th anniversary or 35th anniversary, you're going to want to know where the charter is, because you should be proud of the fact that you've got it for that long. Okay. Another expectation, and this seems like brain surgery here, is that you have the responsibility for making sure that these reports are filed. You've got a membership report that needs to be filed. That means you have to go online. The club officer report, meaning you've had your election and it's got to get posted to LCI. You need to make sure that it's done. If you haven't done that, whose responsibility is it to make sure that it gets to LCI? The president's? Most presidents don't even know how to turn their computer on. And you'd be surprised how many club presidents, for some reason, don't even have an email that we are able to communicate with them. Speaking of emails, is it the club secretary that's supposed to keep track of all of the club emails and know which ones we shouldn't be emailing to this person. They prefer having a text message, or they would rather have a phone call. When there is a meeting coming up, some people don't respond to emails. Some people don't respond to text messages. Some people don't respond to letters. You know that because of all the spam mail you might be getting. It's the idea that the club secretary is the one who knows how best to communicate with all of the members. We have a club that has one member who does not have a computer, so they rely on a telephone, and they've got an old flip phone, the old kind of the Star Trek vintage where you flip it up and then you dial the number. That's the only way we can communicate with that individual. And so the only way that we can make sure that he knows to come to the meeting on Monday is give him a phone call. Other people, they don't want to read their emails. They get too many spam, but they'll take a text message. And so we just text them a message. So the club secretary, one of the simple things that you might do at the beginning of your term is, how best should I communicate with you? Ask that question. How best should I communicate? Which way would you prefer that I reach out to you to let you know what's happening? Service activity report. It's the service chair's responsibility, but who's the keeper of the computer for most clubs? Keeper of all of the records? Well, that's you as the secretary. So if the service chair has a question on how to report service hours, who are you going to call? That sounds like the Ghostbusters here. Who are you going to call? It's going to end up being the secretary. So if you don't know how to do it, how to make a report, how to put that stuff on my LCI, then they're going to be coming to you and asking you how to do it. Now, I will tell you again, July 31 is that session that we're going to have, and it's going to be interactive. We're going to be dealing, you're not going to see slides up on the your screen. You're going to see, and we're going to be linked to LCI, and we're going to have everybody actually doing remotely, because we're going to have it be on computer. So on the 31st, that session is going to be 100% interactive. We're going to have a location for it that will announce in terms of where we can actually go and work on in a computer lab to work on the computers. If not, you're going to be working on your computer at home, or the computer that you're going to be as a secretary, and you're going to be actually filing a report. You're going to be actually going online, and we're going to be walking through my LCI with your computer, and you'll see it on your screens. We're going to be doing some breakout sessions specifically dealing with computer. But right now, we've got so many other things that we need to make sure that you understand in terms of your role and the expectations of you as a club secretary, that we want to make sure that we get this out of the way so that we can then focus on computer. If you don't have a computer, it's going to be really challenging to post things to LCI. That may be where you, between now and the 31st, you may want to find out who's going to become designated as the club administrator. Because if you are not computer literate, you can't do the postings. You're going to need somebody that's going to have to be able to step in and help you on that. And that's the reason why we asked Lori to talk about what is the role of that club administrator, because that club administrator can do those things that if you're not familiar with it, or you don't feel comfortable getting that information onto LCI, then here is an individual that will learn it and can learn it. So have your club administrator be a part of that secretary training on the 31st. Okay, we've covered the service activity. We've covered club supplies order. That's the pins, the things. You're going to be doing that online. I don't know. Joyce is the only person that I've ever seen that could give a phone call to LCI and get an action done. She knows, I think, everybody at the LCI headquarters in Oak Brook, Illinois. and I think on a first name basis, and they know her on a first name basis. But most of us, the only communication that we have with LCI is via a very disenfranchised being online with them. So if you're ordering supplies, you're going to either send an email or you're going to just go online and say, click, I want to have 2 of these or 3 of these. At the beginning of the year, at some point in time, your treasurer is going to want to be able to pay the club dues, and they're going to do it online. Who are they going to call if they don't know how to do it? They're going to call you as the secretary. If they need help, believe it or not, there are some of us out here in the hinterlands that know how to do it. You're welcome to give us a call. Between Lori Gens, the 21 South GLT for this year, and Sue Lynn, the 21 South for next year, myself, and Joyce, who's on the call with us, and several others, we know how to help you get it. So feel free to give us a call or email us. If you're having difficulty or you need some help on the computer. Another expectation of you is to be a participating member of the District Governor's Advisory Committee. The District Governor's Advisory Committee is basically your zone chairs. That's where you will have an opportunity to meet, network with other clubs in your area, to share best practices, to promote your club activities and service projects and events with other clubs. It's an opportunity to have dialogue with other club officers, including your peers as club secretary. Most importantly, it's your interface with the club, with the district officers. Whether we're talking about membership, we're talking about service, or we're talking about administration at the district advisory committee meeting, this is an opportunity to network with those individuals that are doing the same thing that you're doing. Twice a month, we have been doing since January a district roundtable, which has been an opportunity for anyone at the club level, anyone at the leadership level of the clubs, to be able to go online with us and ask questions, so that there's never a chance of, gosh, I don't know how to do this and I don't know who to call. That roundtable is the first Thursday and, pardon me, the second Thursday of the month and the fourth Thursday of the month. Our July roundtables are going to be covering the same subject, which deals with membership. How do we start the new year by trying to get members involved? You know, we're kicking off a brand new leadership team. So how do we get members involved at our clubs? You go to lionsarizona.org and register to participate in the roundtable. Come to both of them, come to only one. Come to them once every 3 months, come to them once every month, come as often as you want. Anytime you've got a question, once you've logged in, you can come and join us and be able to share. So that's one more digital way of getting in touch with us. And that's called the Roundtable, which we do 2 times a year, two times a month, and we'll be continuing that in 2021 and 2022. So how do we keep moving forward when we've got all of these things that we've got as responsibilities? Most important thing to remember is start before you begin your term, understanding what you need to get done. Understand what the expectations are that are ahead of you. Understand the things that you don't know so that you know what to figure out. Too often we accept a position in Lions and then don't get the training or don't participate in the training to start figuring out, well, what am I expected to get done? What am I expected to do? Well, that's what we're having in this session, is let's make sure that we understand our expectations. Let me go back here and I want to just make sure that what are the expectations and how these deal with what you need to get done as a secretary. You need to be familiar with the Constitution, bylaws, and your ebook. Read it. You don't have to click everything in it. Just read it. Read through it so that you have a feeling for what's there. Review the records of what your outgoing secretary has done. Ask them. They are a primary resource for you. Ask your outgoing secretary, what should I keep track of? What had been your experience so that I know that I get it taken care of? Maintain an accurate club roster. You know, that makes logical sense. And make sure that when you get a new member or you lose a member, that you report it to LCI. Make sure that your service chair is reporting the service hours. A trick that was shared to me a long time ago was to go online at the first of the month. And because it starts a whole new month on the first of the month, you can't put in stuff for last month in the new month because it's dealing only month. So anytime in that month, 30 days, 28 days, however many days you have in the month, that's the days that you can start putting things in there. As club secretary, there are exceptions here. There are ways that you can add something if it got forgotten, but you want to get into the habit of, at the beginning of the month, go ahead and open up and make a report to LCI that there's been no change in membership. So that at the end of the month, at least, that's what's identified on the record book. If there has been a change, then anytime you've got an extra 10 minutes, you're not trying to create a new report. All you're doing is amending that report. You're going online and just clicking, oh, I'm going to add two new members, and we've got that handled. We've already talked about trying to add an entire club of Lioness into a club, and Joyce is going to help you with doing that. Let's see, Doreen, I think you were the one that you're in Payson, and you would want to make sure that you had access to that information. So Joyce is going to be helping you with that. But the idea is that at the beginning of the month, go ahead and record what you have. You don't have service hours yet, but that's all right. You can always add service hours. But if you haven't started the report, then you've got to go through the entire process. I got to start the report. I got to open up a report. I've got to put down a couple of numbers and get something in there. Just go ahead, open it, and then close it so that you've got something. It'll come up with zeros. And then throughout the month, as things change, by the end of the month, you've got a full and complete report done. This is going to be one of the things we're going to actually walk through when we get to the online actual computer activity. Going back to number 3, maintain the roster, report it to LCI. 4, prepare the meeting docs, your agenda, keep track of the minutes. Don't make work out of it. You're going to have so many other things that you're going to be responsible for. Keep it simple. The old KISS principle. Keep track of the files, manage the club correspondence, and plan your calendar. One of the big challenges is that if you don't put together your calendar in advance, then all of a sudden it's Tuesday and you're going, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be at such and such a location. Plan your calendar in advance, know what the calendar is for the district, know what the calendar is for the multiple district, know what your community calendar is. We've got the rodeo up here in Prescott coming up in the next couple of weeks. Believe me, I'm making sure that I don't put any conflicts so that I can attend a couple of the events during that week. If we're supposed to have a service project out there for Frontier Days, I better put it on my calendar and know what time I'm supposed to be there helping my fellow club members. If I don't put together my calendar, then all of a sudden it has a tendency to bite us in the tush. That's not pragmatic. Okay, I'm going to go back here just for a second. There we go. We've talked about expectations. So prepare in advance to begin your term. Get your act together by asking questions of the people that have been around. Now, because of the people that we have on this call, and I'm going to call on a couple of them in particular, I want them to add to the discussion here. Jan, I'm going to ask you to jump on here if you don't mind, because what are some, you've been a secretary for your Mesa Thunderbirds for quite a few years. Is there a best practice that you think others should know about?
Ken, I have to admit, my daughter just came over. We were talking and I did not hear what you were talking about.
That's okay.
I'm
Mr.
here
Vidal?
now, if you'd like to ask it again.
Well, you've been a secretary before, and
Yes.
as a secretary, as a previous secretary, what's one of the things that is a best practice for you? One of the things that you make sure that you handle so that for the success of your club, what's one of the things that you do that you think is an important responsibility of a secretary?
I do not do the agendas, although this year I will be because my husband's going to be president and knows nothing about a computer. But in past years, I don't handle the agendas, although I do send them out. What I do try to do is I take care of all emails to the club, reminding them about meetings, um, reminding them about events coming up, reminding them if someone is ill, just taking that responsibility so that the other officers don't have to. And I love corresponding and being on the computer and that kind of stuff. So I like being the person who does it because I know it's going to get done. And then if you leave it to someone else and you think they may be doing it and then they think you're going to be doing it, so that's why I take care of all that type of thing.
Excellent. I know that we had a couple of other second-year secretaries. Grace, are you with us still? Grace, I'd like to ask you, you're self-muted, but I'd like to ask you, since this is your second year as a secretary, what did you learn this past year that you think was the most essential thing of what you've learned? Grace, are you there?
Yes, Grace is here. Okay.
As a secretary, what do you think what do you think has been the most important thing that you have learned in your past year that you want to carry over into this new year?
Nasa si Grace, tinatanong siya. Ang daming magaganda.
Yeah, stuff going in the background. Maybe we should move on.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Grace. We'll come back to you here in just a second. Suzanne, I know that you were concerned and you're self-muted, so unmute yourself if you would, please. You had talked about that you wanted to know more about acronyms. You have only been 18 months as a Lion, and there's been a lot of question. I'd like to be able to address that, and I'm hoping that you're still here with us. So, are you there? There you go. Oh,
Suzanne, you are self-muted. Please unmute yourself.
There
Can
you
you hear
go.
me now? There we go. So the question was what now?
Well, the question was, as a secretary, you're going to have a lot of acronyms. And
Right.
so I would like to be able to have Lori Gens get on the line here with us as well, because she has put together a very big help. And I'd like to make sure that we've covered your burning question about acronyms. Lori, can you share with her what the title of that article is? And we'll get you the email so that you can send it to her. But in terms of the help on handling all of the acronyms from PDG to PIP to ACDC.
Yeah, that would be a big help.
Yes, actually, we just finished the final revision of this document. I believe it's a 9-page document, but it has all of the pertinent and current acronyms, terms, and their definitions and explanations to make our understanding our Lions speak much easier. Though that particular document will be sent to not only the GLT team, but also to the district governors and cabinet secretaries to send out to all of their clubs. It is a long document, but if you hear the Lions speak going back and forth and you're going, oh, wait, what the heck was that? You can go ahead and look at this document, and that acronym and explanation should be on there, and it'll help you better understand what was being said.
Now, you sent to me earlier today, Lori, that document. That's the document that I'll be able to send to all of the participants of this call?
Yes.
Okay. Then as part of the first perk and benefit that you're going to be getting is brand new. It has not even been seen by the district governors yet. And that's going to be Lori's document on how to understand all of this Lions speak, as well as all of the calendar items that you're going to want to know about for the coming year. And we're going to send that to you when we finish our conversation today. At the end of the day, we'll send that out to everyone. So
Ken, it'll
see, you've
be in
already
the,
got a great
it'll
benefit for the
be,
day.
Ken,
Yes,
Lion
Brian.
Ken, it will be in just a few moments. It'll be in the materials tab for people to download right from the conference in just about 3 or 4
Excellent.
minutes.
Excellent. So we're adding that. See, this is one of those fluid things, dealing with how computerese can be successful, or so it says here in fine print. At least we're giving it a try. We've got those documents that you can download right now, which are the club secretary training slides. You've got the LLC responsibilities, which is that Lions Learning Center material. That's a PDF. And then, of course, the secretary ebook, which you can download directly from the conference materials that are online right now for you. And we'll have the last one up there, which it deals with the calendar and all of those acronyms. Let's see if I got all of the other questions. I know that Jan wanted to know more about
It's up
Facebook.
on the, it's up there as of right now.
So materials are on our schedule.
Okay.
Yep, there it is.
The
MD21
acronym is
Lions
there as a
acronyms.
PDF.
And so
Lion
you
Ken.
just double click on that and it'll download right to your computer.
As a PDF.
Excellent.
Lion
Lori?
Ken. I'd like to see, as a secretary, I'd like to suggest another best practice. It's highly recommended that since you're the keeper of all the correspondence, whether it's written or digital, that you make sure that that information gets passed on. If, especially email correspondence, if it comes in, unless it's to you specifically about a specific task that the secretary has to accomplish, you need to go ahead and send it on to your club. In today's electronic age, for those of you that aren't really familiar with the emails and correspondence, there's always a blind courtesy copy that's available. So you may see only one person that's receiving the correspondence, but there may be several other ones on, or maybe not. It might only be coming to you as the club secretary, and it's just assumed that you're going to send it on to your membership. So that's something that's very important. It's not, to make sure the correspondence level does not stop at you.
Very good point. And I want to congratulate Lori. One of the slideshow that you have that's part of your download is her slideshow that she put together that deals with how you walk through all of the slides, all of the screens of LCI. It is a step-by-step approach on how you can add a new member, delete a new member, add reports. So that's the other PowerPoint, not this one that's a kind of an orientation that I'm showing you right now. It's a very specific one, and it'll be the preview for what we're doing in July 31st of how to go from one screen to the next screen. So for Robert Yarder, who had asked, how do you do and drop a member? That PowerPoint is going to be a good help for you to start with between now and July. And for all the rest of you that were trying to figure out, how do I be more familiar with being online? That PowerPoint is going to be a great guide for you. We will be covering more of that on the 31st. Jan Sternberg, you had also asked about Facebook, and what can I try and answer for you on how to do Facebook? That was a kind of a related question. Can you jump back on with us?
Yes, we just recently had our installation of officers and awards presented, and we presented a couple of Melvin Jones, everything. I put that information and pictures on Facebook, but I also have a Mesa Thunderbird Lions Club Facebook page that I wanted to put that same information on that, but I couldn't figure out, I tried to share, that didn't work. I couldn't figure out how to take the exact information from my personal Facebook page to the Mesa Thunderbird page.
All right, it's a great discussion topic. Sulin or Lori, do you have any suggestions, or do we have any Facebook devotees in here that are familiar with it? Raise your hand if you've got a
That'll
way
be
to help.
covered in my Tech Talk classes. We'll be doing a whole session on Facebook, and we'll cover things like sharing and so forth. That's part of Tech
Okay,
Talk IT. And if you want to give me a
okay,
call, I can help you out with that. You know, offline, we can get together and do a session together. I can give you a hand.
okay.
All right. This is the time to share some best practices or ask questions. So does anyone have a question, or just raise your hand so that we can acknowledge you? Any other comments coming through?
There are no written comments coming. I'm seeing no hands going up yet.
And I'm not getting any telephone calls on my cell, so.
Lion
All
Ken?
right. I'm sorry, did
Oh, there's a
Lori go
hand
ahead?
up. Doreen,
Oh,
Lion
Doreen.
Doreen, I've unmuted you. I'm trying to unmute you. There you go, Doreen.
I need Joyce's phone number, please.
Doreen, I sent her a note. She has your email. She'll be reaching out to you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Bye.
Joyce is frantically waving. She's not texting me. That's a good sign.
It's already in your email box. I already emailed you.
Lion Ken?
Yes, Lori.
This is another suggestion. We found that on the Canyon State Lion, although it's sent out to the members that have email addresses, they're not able always to download it and open it. So what I found out is it's very helpful as a club secretary if I download the Canyon State Lion as a PDF and then turn around and email that PDF to our individual club members. And I've found that they're able to open up the document when I do that.
So
They
you're
can
sending
also
it out as an
download it.
attachment.
They can also get it right from the website. It's always on the website. It can be downloaded the same way from there, Lori.
Okay. And then could I kind of do a plug also on getting members on the mailing list for that?
Go ahead.
Okay. If you've added members to your club, or if you've dropped them, make sure that you provide that information to Eddie Richardson and the Canyon State Lions staff, because they can go ahead and add them in and make sure that they get get the emailed copy. And also, if you have members that don't have an email address that they can receive emails at, you can request that the Canyon State Lions staff mail out a physical copy of the Canyon State Lion to those Lions. You just need to provide their mailing address to the Canyon State Lion staff.
Very good.
Also, if you go to the Lions Arizona website under Canyon State Lion, there's a space there, a button you can click where you can subscribe, and you can put an address in there, hit subscribe, and the person is then subscribed to the Canyon State Lion. You can go right off the website and do that.
The factor is that the Canyon State Lions membership list is only taken from the beginning of the year. And it's only through these additions or deletions throughout the year, because we've heard from the club secretaries that anybody is added or subtracted between June 30th and the following June 30th of the year. Any other questions? Now's the time to ask. All right, well, we've been at this for a little over 2 hours, and I think that I've provided at least enough of a basic overview, and you've gotten some additional resources to work with. Please remember that you are at the center of your club. You are at the center of a team of people trying to make a successful impact in your community. The role of the secretary is not a hard one. It's not difficult. It's just there's a lot of moving pieces to it. And the most successful secretaries are the ones that are the most organized. They have developed a plan of action, and they prepared for their year. So they prepared to lead, so they're prepared to succeed. One last thing to think about in that preparing to lead and preparing to succeed is, please recognize that you've got resources. You know where they are. They're on LCI's website. They are the officers of your district. They are the other members of your club. They are all around you. All you have to do is ask the question. We don't know how to give you the answers. We don't know how to get the answers to you if you don't ask the questions. So we ask you, feel free to get in touch with us, contact us. Feel free to ask those questions. We'll get you the answer if we don't know it. Your zone chair is a resource. Your district governor is a resource. Your GLT and your global action team, we're all resources. And we know where a lot of other resources are, including other service projects for your service chair, how to help get new members for your membership chair, how to work with your marketing communications leadership team and committee to get word into the local newspaper, radio stations, communications. We are going to be having a lot more training sessions coming up in July that are going to be dealing with some of these specific officers. We wanted to certainly make sure that the secretaries, treasurers, and the presidents had the first opportunity to get ready, because you've got the longest lead time necessary to get information. I've got a note here that David, you've got a query or something that you want to ask. Go ahead, David, you're unmuted.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Lion Ken and Lion Brian and everybody for the insights in this training today. I did have a question in terms of becoming the new secretary for this year, and you were mentioning getting updates or emails from Lions or from our district governor and other leadership to disseminate to the rest of the club. Is there a mechanism or something that kicks that off so that I now start getting those emails versus the past secretary?
If I'm not mistaken, and Sue Lynn and Lori, feel free to jump in here. Once he has been identified as the secretary, he starts receiving correspondence from LCI. Is that not correct?
Yes.
They're shaking their heads yes. They're all saying yes. You should be already on those mailing lists, not only as this year's secretary or for 2021, but also to receive it starting now. Lori, did you add something you wanted to add to that?
Just that if you're not receiving the emails from your particular, especially your district, let your cabinet secretary know, and they can make sure that you're added to the list. That's one of the jobs of the cabinet secretary. The incoming cabinet secretary prepares an email list to make sure that any correspondence that needs to go to their district is sent to the appropriate leadership. And the outgoing one, they may have already made a list. If not, let them know and they will add you to the list that they have.
Well, David's down in the Chandler Club, which is the South. So I'm sure that Lori and Sulin are already making notations, and they're going to see to it that you're on that list just to make sure. Thank you very much, David. Did you have something else that you wanted to add?
No, sir. Thank you. And thank you again to everybody for your insights and training today.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go down the list here just to make sure that we've got everyone covered. Doreen, I know that you're coming up in Payson. You've already been in correspondence with Joyce about adding all of those lionesses. Is there any other questions that you might have between now and what we need to get done?
Not at this time. And again, I want to, same with David, I want to thank you very much for the training. It was very informative. It was very easy to understand and easy to follow. So thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you for being with us. Lion Jan, I know you've been around the block more than a week or two. Would you care to ask any other final question?
Not at the moment. I'm sure a couple minutes after we all go off, I'll think of something, but right at this moment, no.
Well, thank you for being here. I have a feeling that my wife is going to give me an earful anyway, so I'm not even going to call her up unless she raises her hand and says, no, I have a question to ask everybody, because she'll
No,
bend my ear 6 ways past Tuesday.
no.
So let me go to Lewis. Lewis, is there anything else that you might want to ask?
No. This has been very good. Been a very good overview. I've been taking some notes, and as I said, I've always watched some of the work that my wife did with us.
Excellent. And believe me, the resources that Lion Lori and Sue Lynn and that our global leadership team have put together for you, they've got some tremendous assist material for you. So please feel free to download that material so that you can use it moving forward. Uh, it's additional reading. There's always something to read and additional things to learn. But if you don't know where to start looking, then you're never going to be able to find some of the answers. So we want to try and make it available. Lion Robert, you're self-muted, but I wanted to make sure that we'd answer your questions for the day.
Yeah, yes, I'm good. The club ebook dated 2017. Has there been any update to that?
The printed one has not been updated, but the links are constantly being updated at Lions. That's the
Oh,
nice thing about it. Most of the time as secretary, or no matter what your position is, the questions haven't really changed. They seem to be the same questions, but the answers to those questions do change. And that's the reason why having this electronic mechanism, we change the answers so that you're getting the most recent information possible. So
oh,
I assure you that the answers are current. The questions might be old because they're the same question that my wife asked me 25 years ago, or was it 43 years ago? Yeah, something like that.
also the service
Go ahead.
book. It's about, yeah, the service toolkit. It's still about the same too, right?
Yes. It's been updated because they are constantly updating the website. They're constantly upgrading some of the mechanisms. There will be more things that will be going as it deals with reporting at that July 31. But by and large, the questions that are posted and linked in the ebook are designed to constantly being updated, upgraded, and made current with the
Oh,
most recent information. So that's why it's an ongoing useful tool for you. Excellent
Okay,
question. Thank
very
you,
good.
Roland.
All right.
I'm going to go to Suzanne. Suzanne, anything else that you would like to ask?
No, but I want to add my thanks to the rest of the folks. This has been very, very good, and my reading material for the next couple of months is about to be downloaded. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, we appreciate your time being on here. I'm going to ask that hopefully that you keep thinking in terms of how you can assist your district governor, because Lyon Joyce and Richard Hopkins are both going to be wanting all of the leadership teams of every single club to be very supportive. And I'm going to end the conversation with the Club Excellence Award. My club for years has been trying to get the Club Excellence Award, and we've never been able to get past that one big roadblock at the end of the year, which is a net growth of 1. Now, mind you, we'll get 4 or 5 new people throughout the year, but then 4 or 5 people leave sometime during the year. And so getting that +1 has always been a challenge for us. But it's a great goal for your club to have, that every year you as the club secretary, in keeping track of all of the records of service, of all of the records of hours worked and projects done and activities of the club, this is your opportunity to truly make sure that your club is getting recognized by this Excellence Award. I only throw in the caveat that the one bailiwick that you got to have is you got to have a +1 net. At the end of the year, make sure you've got a +1 net, even if it means you're hiring your daughter to be joining your club for an hour. I mean, set it as a goal for you to get the Club Excellence Award in your term as secretary. You will be very proud of what you have done if you can achieve that. And it is easy to do, but it's that +1 that always seems to trip up everybody. But it's well worth it to be recognized as for the Club Excellence Award. With that, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate your time this Saturday. I'm available by the emails that were in that promotional material that had gone around. My phone number is there. Feel free to get in touch with me. I'm more than happy to answer your question, or at least direct you to somebody who's got a lot more knowledge than I do. Thank you for your time. We'll catch up with you and see you here in Lyons. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.